session. So let us bring our mind to the present moment, to the here and now, being aware of our surroundings briefly, and then being aware of the body, which is seated, the shape of the body. After a moment or two, being aware of the body, you can gently shift your awareness to the part of the body that is involved with the breathing, the cycle of breathing. Specifically, if you're aware of airflow through the nostril region, or you're aware of the expansion and contraction of your chest, or the rise and fall of your abdomen, whatever it may be, please make that area the focus of your meditation. So today's topic, as Madam mentioned, is about Nama Rupa. So Nama Rupa can be described as Rupa is translated into corporeality. Several words is used in literature, or physicality or materiality. And Nama is translated into mind, or like if you think of our mentality, mind and matter, Nama Rupa. So mentality or mind is another translation of Nama. Now, if you take an individual can be defined as made up of Nama and Rupa, mind and matter. If you think of the world at large, again, you could define the world at large as Nama and Rupa. If you think of an experience, a momentary experience, that experience will also would have been made up of Nama and Rupa. So I would like to elaborate a bit more on this by taking the example of an experience. Now, an experience is an important phenomenon, and that is a phenomenon that tells us that we are alive and we are aware. You know, the confirmation of being alive or being aware is by comprehension or experience, the ability to experience. So that is a common phenomena all beings share. So where do we get this experience from? So the experience enters, or we appreciate experience through 6 sense bases, which is how in the Buddhist tradition this is taught. So what are the 6 sense bases? You have the eye sense base, you have the ear sense base, you have the nose as a sense base, the tongue, the body. In addition to that 5, you have the mind as a sense base. So together, we experience through these sense bases. And what is it that we experience? We experience an object that comes through these sense bases. So each sense base would have a respective object. So I want you to imagine 6 doors positioned in a circle, 6 doors or 6 windows or 6 bases positioned in a circle in the same plane. Just imagine that schematic representation of the sense bases, and each door would have a respective object that would come through that door, or an object that would come in a position to the sense base. For example, the eye would have visual objects. Ear, the sense base would have sound as an object. The nose would have smell as an object. The tongue would have taste as an object. The body would feel touch as an object. And the mind would have thoughts, and these are called dhammas, as an object. But if you focus on to the 5 sense bases, minus the mind sense base, think about the eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body, these 5 sense bases, and their respective objects. That is Rupa. That constitutes the entirety of Rupa. Everything else that you experience, in addition to those, apart from the sense bases and the respective objects, would fall into the category of Nama Dharma. So that's one way of looking at this. And if you think of an individual, and as I mentioned, can be thought of being made up of Nama and Rupa. So the Nama is divided into 4 main categories. Vedana, which is the feeling. Sanya, which is perception. Sankhara, which is volitional action or volition or intention. And Vijnana, which is consciousness. So together, when you say Rupa, when you put Rupa together with these 4 Nama dharmas, that constitutes the 5 aggregates. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. So that's an individual. So if you think of the world at large, for example, the furthest galaxy or star or solar system that you can observe through your eye or through telescope, what is that? The world at large. Again, that is still Rupa. It is nothing but an object that comes into contact with the sense base of the eye. So that is, again, belongs to this individual Panchaskandha, the 5 aggregates. The entire galaxy is part of this Panchaskandha. If you think of an electron or the microscopic structures, the micro world, the nano quantum world, how do we perceive this? Through lots of high flown instruments, but still we perceive it through the eye, ear, mind, through these sense bases. So that again would constitute the five aggregate, the Panchaskandha. So yet we have this notion that we separate ourselves from the environment that we exist in, and we separate ourselves as a unique set, a complete set of five aggregates. But can you separate yourself from the environment that you're living in? You can't, because that entire environment is part of the Rupa. So for some reason, for ignorance, because of ignorance and delusion, we divide, or we cut out a bit of this experience and we call it me, mine, I. So the way to happiness is, of course, trying to overcome the delusion. And that is why the Nama Rupa, getting a knowledge of or understanding Nama Rupa is so important. And if you go back to an experience, a single experience of touch, for example, that is also the five aggregates, just like the galaxy at large. Gazing into the sky is an experience. Touching your table right now is an experience. That experience can be dissected into five components: Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Can be looked at from a different angle. Nama, Rupa, simple touch. The entire world, what we call my body, can be looked at from a different angle. So I would like, and also just imagine this representation, this diagram that we imagine, the 6 sense bases situated in a circular fashion, and your mind is in the middle of it. Just imagine having such a body. Is there any moment where a sense door is not being stimulated? A sense door is not coming into contact with an object? Is there any split second of a moment that a sense base is resting? For example, the sense base of the ear, your tympanic membrane or your eardrum is being stimulated by sound in the environment, and it's constantly vibrating due to not only the sound that we are aware of, so many sounds in the environment, and it's constantly vibrating. So imagine in this diagram, in this representation, a constantly vibrating eardrum and the eye sense base. Think of a retina there in the eye, which is catching the light emitted from objects, constantly being bombarded. It may be light, it may be a reduction of light, what we call nighttime. But still there is some light. We can identify, we do see darkness. We do see it. So there is seeing constantly. Even if you shut your eyes, you can see the darkness. So your retina is constantly being stimulated. Your eardrum is constantly being stimulated. Your body, is there any moment in your existence where your body is not being stimulated? Even in your sleep, it's constantly coming into contact with some object. If it's not coming into contact, it is in contact with space, which is also an object, which is also a Rupa Dharma. It's described as a Rupa Dharma in the Abhidhamma. Paricheda Rupa, Akasha Dhatu. So it's in contact. Empty space is a sensation. It's a bodily sensation. It's constantly. So your body is constantly being stimulated. Your eye is constantly being stimulated. Ear constantly. And so are the other sense bases. We may not appreciate the sense of smell, but remove yourself from a familiar environment, immediately you might experience a different odor or different sense of smell. Your mind is constantly being bombarded with thoughts. But in any given moment, you're only aware of one. Why is that? So that is who decides which sense-based experience you are going to have in the next second. Who decides that? It is not within our control, even though we think it's in our control. It is not. So we choose, even though we are constantly stimulated. Think of the ear. So many sounds are stimulating the eardrum, constantly vibrating, but the mind or the consciousness, ear consciousness, has the ability to home in onto one frequency. And it highlights that frequency. It becomes aware of only that frequency. It doesn't shut out all the rest of the sound waves. So that's an amazing thing to experience or think in that way and understand the function of experience, how it happens and how little we control in the experience that we are enjoying or we are living through. So I'd like to read off a verse from the Madhupindika Sutra, which is a sutra in the Majjhima Nikaya of the Sutra Pitaka. So we all know that the Buddhist discourse was preserved, which was the Buddha exposed and expounded the Dhamma. It was preserved for 2,500 years in the form of the Tripitaka, in the form of 3 baskets of teachings, grouped into 3 main baskets. So this is found in the Sutra Pitaka, and the Sutra Pitaka has 5 books. The second book is the Majjhima Nikaya. So this is the 18th Sutra of the Majjhima Nikaya. And I would like to read the Pali verse, which highlights this experience. And I must apologize in advance for any mispronunciation of the Pali words. Chakkuncha avuso paticcha rupecha uppajjati chakku viññāna tinnang sangati passo passa paccaya vedana yang vedeiti tang sanjanati yang sanjanati tang vitakketi yang vitakketi tang papancheti yang papancheti tato nidanam purisam papancha sanya sankha samudakarenti atita anagata pachuppannesu chakku viññesu rupesu. So here, so this sutra was delivered by I think Mahakotita Thero. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure about this. But what it says is, Chakkuncha auso paticca rupecha. Chakku is the sense base. Paticca is coming into juxtaposition or coming into opposing the eye is the form, rupecha. Uppajjati chakku viññānam. And here arises, if this is fulfilled, the object and the sense base is fulfilled, there is born the eye consciousness. But still, your awareness, you're not fully aware at this point. For that to happen, tinnang sangati passo. This is contact. Now the radar is flickering. This object at this sense base gives a signal to your mind, and you now know that you are seeing. Passa paccaya vedana. So this gives rise to feeling, maybe a pleasurable, unpleasant, or a neutral feeling, and then goes on to develop. If what you experience, what you feel, the feeling, the sensation gives rise to sanya, perception. You identify. The feeling leads to identification. And then yang sanjanati tang vitakketi. So you have thoughts from that point onwards, leading to papancheti, a proliferation of thoughts regarding what you have seen. So this ignites a thought proliferation, thinking about what you are seeing in short. So here, Chakkun Chau, so Paticha Rupecha is the Rupa, the rest is the Nama Dharma. And if you look at the Abhidhamma, which is a very exhaustive sort of, but a very rewarding exercise, I must say, which needs a lot of time, but I went through the description of Rupa, how Rupa is described in short. So I'll start with Nama Dharma. So in the Abhidhamma, all the phenomena of existence is classified under 4 main categories. Chitta, which is mind; Chetasika, which is thought; corporeality, which is Rupa; and the fourth one is Nibbana. So the Chitta and Chetasika falls under the Nama Dharma. Corporeality falls under Rupa Dharma. So if you think of the mind as water, ingredients that you add to water to make a drink, there are so many ingredients, and therefore you can come up with so many flavors, so many types of soft drinks, tea, coffee, beverages. But the common denominator, the common base is water. So water, the clear water is like the mind. All the ingredients is called the Chetasika. So the Chetasikas are 52. So these are all Nama Dharmas in the Abhidhamma description. 52, which comprise of Sabba Sadharana, Sabba Chitta Sadharana. That means every time the mind arises, these 7 are part of that. So I will not go into details, but I'll just mention these 7 Nama Dharmas: Passa, Vedana, Sanya, Chetana, Ekaggata, Jivita, Indriya, Manasikara. So these Nama Dharmas are present in all mind moments, in every experience. So like that, you have Akusala, the unwholesome, called Chetasikas, 14. Then you have Sobana Chetasikas, 19. So likewise, so when you add these Chetasikas in different combinations, you have various states of mind, Chitta. So the Chitta, there are 89 varieties, 89 types of Chitta explained in the Abhidhamma. So that's the Nama Dharma. When you come to the Rupa Dharma, so the Rupa Dharma is described under 5 categories, under 5 methods. First method is enumeration, second method is division, third one is according to arising, fourth one is group, fifth one is mode of happening. In Sinhalese or in Pali is Samuddesa, Vibhaga, Samuttana, Kalapa, Pravritti. So if you look at the enumeration, you have the 4 great elements: earth element or the Patavi Dhatu, water element, the Apo Dhatu, fire element, Tejo Dhatu, air element, Vayo Dhatu. And then you have the 4 great elements and the Upadaya Rupa, the derived matter, derived Rupa. So the 5 sense bases, material of the objects, the respective sense base, and so on. And you have 28 rupas. So that's the Abhidhamma. If you're like, you can follow that and study, have a good analytical study of the Nama Rupa, how it is being described. So why is it important that we study? Like we mentioned before, every experience, the way we perceive experience is inaccurate, is biased. The raw experience is being manipulated. So because of that, we can't see the true nature of an experience. We can't understand the true nature of what's happening around us. So if you look at the experience, if you can break down the experience into its bare components, to its rudimentary components, then you might be able to understand phenomena before addition of our coloring, our distortions. Before all of that happens, you may be able to appreciate the experience, understand the true nature of objects that you encounter in living. And when you understand that, your tendency to grab on, to latch on to an experience, your tendency to push off an experience or develop aversion towards an experience, towards an object, that tendency reduces. Because you realize that these experiences have nothing to do, you have the option of not getting involved with this phenomena. You have the option of keeping away from these experience. And if you're dissociated from that, the chance of the experience leading to suffering or causing heartbreak, pain, you're removing yourself from that environment and you're not subject to that suffering. So that is why it's important for us to see Nama Rupa. But also, so that's why in the insight meditation, the knowledge of through the meditation experience, you come to a point where you see Nama Rupa, you see the phenomena, not as you usually would, but as it's like seeing a building is the normal way we see things. But if you see the rock material that made up the building, like the bricks, the paint buckets, the wires, you see that separately, it's a different feeling that you get. It's a different experience altogether. But so that knowledge is called Nama Rupa Paricheda Jnana. That's a Vipassana knowledge that you get when you do insight meditation. That's the first. There are 16 knowledges or insights that you develop as you progress in the path, and this is the first one. So it's a very important stepping stone. It's a very important stepping stone, but this is something that you have to also overcome. The Abhidhamma describes all phenomena into 4 groups, categorizes. Nibbana is neither Rupa or neither Nama Dharma. You have to penetrate Nama Rupa for you to have the ability to experience Nibbana. So Nibbana is none of those. You can't categorize it into Nama or Rupa because Nama Rupa has to decay or fade away. Nirodha has to happen to Nama Rupa for you to enter and see freedom. But if you don't go beyond Nama Rupa, if you're stuck at Nama Rupa, if you only see Nama Rupa, still you have lost the plot. So seeing Nama Rupa is a stepping stone. But the more you progress, you realize Nama Rupa is also a construct. If you look at the dependent origination, Vijnana Pachya Nama Rupa. The first thing the consciousness does is, the job of Vijnana is to divide and rule, make divisions, categorize, define. The first thing it does is divide itself into Nama Rupa. That's the first thing. So that's how it starts. So if you're seeing Nama Rupa, you're on a base, on a platform of avidya. Avidya Pachya Sankara, Sankara Pachya Vijnana, Vijnana Pachya Nama Rupa. You're still ignorant. So you have to go beyond Nama Rupa, where you can't identify Nama Rupa. where you see only dhammas. You can't even say whether this dhamma is a nama dharma or a rupa dharma. It's just a dhamma. It's just an experience. It is not you. Even that is not you. So how do you achieve that? How do you see nama rupa and how do you go beyond nama rupa? Well, the only answer I can tell you is it certainly can be done through practicing mindfulness, practicing sati, as mentioned by the Buddha in the Satipatthana Sutra. So I'd like to end this talk by reading the Satipatthana Sutra. I will never get tired of reading this. I'm sorry if it sounds like a repetition to you, but this will also tell us how we see Nama Rupa and how we overcome Nama Rupa. So the Buddha says, he starts the Satipatthana is the four foundation of mindfulness. The first foundation of mindfulness is Kayanupassana. In the Kayanupassana, there are several techniques of developing mindfulness of the body, but the sutra starts with Anapanasati Pabbaya. And the Buddha says, Ida bhikkave bhikkhu aranya gatava rukka mula gatava shunya gara gatava. We know that we have to go to the monastery, we have to go to a quiet place, we have to go to the root of a tree and start meditating. You know, get into your meditation posture and then become mindful. So sato asasati, so sato passasati. Be mindful of your in-breath and your out-breath, like the way we started this session. And then you will see clearly, digangva asasanto, digangva asasamiti pajanati. Important word, digangva pasasanto, digangva pasasamiti pajanati. So pajanati is where this insight begins. This is where the wisdom begins. This is where mindfulness really kicks in. When you take a long breath, just be aware to the fact that you know you took a long breath. When you're taking a short breath, be aware to the fact that you have taken a short breath. That's just it. What happens in your mind, the wholesome qualities that are cultivating in your mind can only be seen by the Buddha. We cannot see that, but just be aware. Nothing happens. But be aware, that's where you're planting the seeds of wisdom, planting the seeds of sati, samadhi, panya, pajanati. When you keep on doing this, what happens? Sabbakaya patisangvedi asasisamiti sikkati. Sabbakaya patisangvedi pasasisamiti sikkati. Sikkati. What is sikkati? Sikkati is shiksha, sila. So when the pancha sila is restraining your verbal door and your physical door. So we do things with our mind, body, and words through the spoken language. So you're restraining the two doors of doing. The verbal door and the body is restrained in pansil. Here also is a sikkati, the mental door. You're disciplining not only your words, not only your physical body, but your mind, sikkati. You're not doing anything now. Now you've seen your in-breath. You've seen your out-breath. You're aware that you took an out-breath. You're aware to that knowledge of knowing that you took an out-breath. When you do that, when you spend a moment there, your mind settles. What happens next? Passambayang kaya sankarang asasisamiti sikkati. The same goes, pasasisamiti sikkati. Because you're not doing now, it's not pajanati, you're not doing anything. You're not looking, you're just appreciating that experience. Your mind is still, you're not intentionally, you're not doing anything, and the intention subsides. Passambayang kaya sankarang asasisamiti sikkati. Now you see kaya sankara, the nama dharma. You saw digangva, rasangva, the breath. You saw the rupa dharma. You saw how the rupa dharma was slowly fading away from Digangva to Rasangva. Now you're seeing Nama Dharma, the intention of breathing. Even though this is an automatic process, when you're aware of your breathing, you are actively involved with your breathing. You're doing something there. Now you're not doing. Because the Buddha told you, stop doing sikkati. So now you have an idea about Nama Dharma. You're not going to note Nama Dharma, Rupa Dharma in your meditation. Retrospectively, you would have had that knowledge. And beyond this, iti ajjattangva khaye khayanu viharati. Now, pajanati, we became sikkati, we became disciplined, we became aware of the in-breath, we became disciplined, we were not doing anything with our mind. And now we see the consequence of that is khayanu viharati, khayanu. You see your body in a different light, completely different angle now. It is the margins have blurred, just phenomena, and this is called kayanu. So the prerequisite to vipassana is pajanati. That's why it's so important. That step is so important. That is not the samatha meditation. Pajanati doesn't happen in samatha. Samatha is also important because you calm your mind and you can come to this. Pajanati sets the direction into vipassana, kayanu. Bahiddhava. What is ajjata bahiddha in respect to the body? You're dividing the bodily sensation based on this sense door of the body. The body as a sense door has stimuli from outside, and then you have sensations from within, and you divide. You divide it based on this, the presence of your skin. If it's outside the skin, you think it's external. If it's something inside your stomach, inside your skull, like a headache, you would consider, or the chest wall inside, you would consider it ajjata. So there is a distinction here. But so you're just seeing now. You're not mentally noting. You're just seeing because you stopped doing anything at the sikkati level. You stop that now. So the more you start seeing, this division also is separated. Kayanupassi, ajjata bahiddha becomes ajjata bahiddha. You can't distinguish what is outside, what is inside. There is a phenomena in respect to your body. And then what happens now? You come to a state where you are seeing samudaya dhammanupassi. Now you're in a position to see the body not as the body really, but as a dhamm. Now you come down to the dhammanupassana segment within the kayanupassana, where you're seeing the dharma, the dhamma, which is not even identified as the body. But these dhammas are in respect to the body. These dhammas together, if you add on your sankharas, your views and everything into this bare information, that becomes the body. It becomes your body. It becomes the beautiful body. It becomes the ugly body. It becomes the healthy, unhealthy. But when you go to the core, the bare, the beginning, it is a dhamma and it arises. Dhammanupassi, it's not kayanupassi. Dhammanupassi. Now you've gone a step further. You are in Dhammanupassi. And you have Vaya Dhammanupassiva Kayasming Viharati. Then you have Samudaya Vaya Dhammanupassiva Kayasming Viharati. At this point, you're experiencing Rupa Dharmas, Nama Dharmas, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana pertaining to the body. And these arise. Sometimes you have a sensation of tightness. It's there, but your mind tells you this is the body. It's the Nama Dharma that tells you this sensation is the body and you see it arising. Sometimes it's just a space. You might feel your clothes on your body and you identify the emptiness within the skin, within that experience. The emptiness is identified as, oh, this is my bodily space. Emptiness outside of this is the external environmental space, but it's space nevertheless, not even a solid sensation. So here, when you come to Samudaya via Dhammanupassiva, Nama Rupa also you can't distinguish. You're not, your mind is not even doing that. Why? You have to have the fixation quality of your mind to separate Nama Dharma from Rupa, Vedana from Sanya, Sanya from Sankara, Sankara from Vijnana needs the fixing nature of the mind. That is the Nitya Sanya. We fix something to understand it. If you are studying a microscope, something under a slide, you have to fix the slide. Otherwise, you can't study it. If you're taking a picture, selfie, you have to focus, fix the camera, then you take a picture and then you understand. So that is Nitya. You're fixing, you're stabilizing, you're trying to define Nama and Rupa. You let go of that, you can't differentiate Nama and Rupa. And then the last sentence in the Kayanupassana is Attikayotiva panassa sati pachupattita hoti yavadeva jnanamattaya pattisati mattaya anissitocha viharati nachakinchi loki upadhyati. So you're not fixing, you're not attaching, you're not trying to fix a phenomena which is in constant change. You're not trying to put that effort, which is a real suffering. Let go of that need. That is practicing anicca sanya. You're not even trying to fix something as nama dharmas, because you know nama rupa doesn't exist at the level of vijnana. Vijnana paccha nama rupa. It only exists if you make it exist. So that requirement, that need also, now you have gone beyond that. And this is where you experience some sort of freedom. Nachakinchi loke upadhyate. There is no upadana. So if there is no upadana to what you're experiencing, there won't be the subsequent cascade of events leading to suffering. So thank you very much for listening for this talk. So this is in the Sangyukta Nikaya. Sanyacha niyesu bhikkhave dhammesu assaddhanupassino viharato namarupassa avakkanti hoti. So that says sanyojaniyesu bhikkhave. Sanyojana dharma, the fetters. The fetters that keep us bound to the samsara, like Rupa Raga, Arupa Raga, Kamaya, or sense pleasure. These are all fetters keeping us bound to these realms. Sanyojaniyesu bhikkhave dhammesu assadanu passino. Assadanu is aswada. The person who indulges in fetters, nama rupasa avakkanti hoti. Nama Rupa establishes in this person. Nama Rupa avakkanti hoti in Sinhala is Nama Rupayan hi basaganiti. There is establishment of Nama Rupa. Nama Rupa paccha salayatanang eva metassa kevalassa dukkhandassa samudaya hoti. Because of that, salayatana causes vedana, we can assume that, and then dukkha. So the appearance of Nama Rupa causes dukkha. And the same sutra, Sanyojaniyesu bhikkhave dhammesu adinavanu passino viharati. The person who sees the downside of the clinging to fetters, or see the disadvantage or the consequences, the harmful or the dangers of indulgence in fetters, adinavanu passino viharati. Nama Rupa avakkanti nahoti. Nama Rupa does not get established. Nama Rupa nirodho salayatana nirodho. Eva metassa kevalassa dukkhandassa nirodho hoti. So you can start from whatever chain, like Vedananupassana, you're starting from Vedana. You're starting from Vedana. So if you see the nirodha of Vedana, beyond that, it will like a domino, like removing a one chip of the domino. So it won't, that won't propagate beyond that, and then that won't give rise to the cycle of avidya, because you uprooted delusion. So again, there won't be a rising of the consciousness. So whatever from the paticca samuppada, dependent origin, whatever stage this can happen.
Right. Thank you.